You just finished your cut. You're feeling lean, confident, and proud. But after a few weeks, you start to notice some changes. You start to see lines blur, your abs start to fade, clothes start to feel a little bit tighter. But don't worry, you're not alone. Most people think the hardest part of any transformation is the dieting phase, but the real challenge starts post-dieting phase when you're trying to maintain that new level of leanness that you achieved from your fat loss phase. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about why this is so difficult, and also I'm going to give you some actionable steps that you can use in your next post-dieting phase. Welcome to the channel. My name is Ryan. I'm an ex-NRL player, online coach, and pro natural bodybuilder. And this channel is all about finding the most efficient way to help you lose fat and build muscle. Now, this particular topic is very front of mind because I've just finished my competitive season and I'm entering my recovery phase. So I've got to a decent level of leanness, and now I'm focusing on managing this tricky and tough dieting phase. And trust me when I say it is tough and it is tricky, probably even more so than the actual diet phase itself. But why is it so tough and why is it so tricky? Now, there's three main reasons for this. Firstly is our changes in physiology. Now, when going into a dieting phase, especially a prolonged dieting phase, you will see a downregulation in metabolism. So we've got less calories coming in. We also have less energy and less calories on our body through lack of body fat. So what our body does is we'll start to downregulate our metabolism to try and reduce how many calories we're burning on a day-to-day basis. This, along with an increase in hunger hormone, our ghrelin, and also a decrease in satiety hormone, leptin, and that's a big one because it actually decreases more with the more body fat you lose. So leptin is made by our fat cells. So the less body fat that we have on us, the less leptin we're going to be producing, meaning the less satiety hormone we're going to have floating around our system. In other words, the leaner that we get, the hungrier we're going to be. And in addition to our downregulation on metabolism, we also have a downregulation in our energy output. So our NEAT, our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so the amount we move on a day-to-day basis, is actually going to be decreased so that our body can reduce the amount of calories that we're burning on a day-to-day basis. And next reason is psychological. A successful diet is going to look quite meal plan-esque. You're going to be eating very similar foods on a day-to-day basis. And when we finish that dieting phase, we obviously have a lot more options that we can choose from. This is going to increase hunger and also increase food focus. It's kind of like if you went to a buffet. If I was to sit you down and give you unlimited chicken, rice, and vegetables, there's only so much you're going to want to eat. But if I gave you unlimited pizza, pasta, noodles, pastries, cakes, you're going to be a lot more incentivized to want to eat more. It's going to be easier to consume more calories. This is the same mindset that happened once we finish the dieting phase, and especially if we don't keep that sort of meal plan-esque approach. And another one is just a reward mindset. We've said no to a lot of indulgent foods. We've said no to a lot of outings, which is something that we should be very proud of. And along with that, we're going to want to reward ourselves by having some of these indulgent foods that we said no to. But for this next dieting phase, we need to try and make sure that we're not going overboard and rewarding ourselves too much. And another one is going to be the lack of dopamine hits that we're going to get on a day-to-day basis. Usually, when you're in a fat loss phase, you're going to get some type of dopamine on a day-to-day basis, whether that be through the drop on the scale or the change that you see in the mirror from your physique. All these things are going to give us that dopamine hit to keep us on the path to working towards that goal. But when we finish the dieting phase and in the post-dieting phase, we're not going to get that dopamine hit of the scale dropping all the time or the changes in our physique. So we're going to look to get it from somewhere else, which is generally going to be from food. So we have that increase in food focus, the increase in hunger, the more variety in food, plus we want to get that extra dopamine hit. And we also don't really have a clear goal as well. When we have a dieting phase, we have a set timeline or we have an X kilograms or weight that we want to get to. Once we have achieved that, then we have achieved the goal and we don't have to do what we've been doing and we don't have to say no to all these different things. Whereas now we don't really have a clear timeline in our post-dieting phase, or we don't have a clear goal. This can result in a risk of binge eating episodes. With that increased food focus, increase in hunger, our extra variety of foods, we want to get that dopamine hit, plus we don't really have a why as to why we shouldn't do it. This is going to increase the likelihood of having a binge eating episode. And final reason is our lifestyle and not maintaining the lifestyle that got us to this new level of leanness. All the habits that we built during our fat loss phase, like our steps, tracking our calories, making sure we're getting in our resistance training sessions, also getting to bed on time, all of these things that got us there, we're not really going to maintain them because we don't have a reason to. We don't have a why. We don't have a goal in this post-dieting phase. So generally, a lot of people will fall off in these areas. Another one is we may have said no to a lot of social outings. We may have restricted how much alcohol we're drinking during the week. We might not have drank any, or we might have limited ourselves to one or two. When we finish the dieting phase, we're going to say yes to a lot more social outings. We're obviously going to incorporate alcohol more into your life. So all of these things can result in the extra calories being consumed on a day-to-day basis, which obviously can result in going into a calorie surplus and us gaining fat. Now we know the reasons why this may happen. We need to form a bit of a plan to try and stop this. And the first thing that we need to focus on is just controlling our calories. We need to be in a calorie deficit to be able to lose fat. If we want to be able to maintain this new level of physique, we need to be at calorie maintenance. And there's two ways that we can get there. First is reverse dieting. We can reverse our way out of our calorie deficit to get back to our new maintenance. Or second option is just going straight back to maintenance. Reverse dieting works really well if you have just finished a short, aggressive fat loss phase. So something like a 4 to 8 weeks where you've been quite assertive with your calorie deficit. A reverse diet works really well. Main reason for this being is that you haven't accumulated too much diet fatigue because it's been a pretty short process. Plus, it is also going to be hard to predict your new maintenance due to the lack of data that you've accumulated in that short period of time. Plus, with an aggressive fat loss phase, you are going to see large drop-offs in weight. So it just makes it a little bit more tricky to predict that new maintenance. So for this very reason, if you are doing a short, aggressive fat loss phase, I would recommend doing a reverse diet. A reverse diet, you will increase calories by 200 calories a day and you'll hold there for 1 to 2 weeks. We're looking for a maintenance in a new body weight. So if we continue to drop weight, we'll add 100 calories every week until we start to see a level off in our body weight. And then from there, we'll just stick at that new calorie level. And the second option is just going straight back to maintenance. Now, as I spoke about, this is really great for long-term dieting approaches as you would have accumulated more diet fatigue. So just getting back to maintenance is just going to be a quicker way to reverse that diet fatigue and recover from that. And plus, you're going to have a lot more data to support what your new maintenance calories will be. Now, I continue to say new, and I want to emphasize new because your calorie burn on a day-to-day basis from when you started your calorie deficit to where you are now is going to be a lot different. So that means that the calories that we consume on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we're at a new calorie maintenance is going to be a lot different as well. But because we have that long-term data of weekly averages of weight, plus the amount of calories we're consuming on a day-to-day basis, we should be able to have a more accurate prediction of what that new calorie maintenance should be. Now, when you go back to maintenance, make sure that you stay there for at least 1 to 2 weeks because the first couple of days, you will see an increase in body weight of 1 to 2%. Now, this is just glycogen levels and fluid levels increasing in the body, along with a little bit of extra food that's going into the system as well. Nothing to do with body fat. This is just all part and parcel of going back to that new maintenance where your body weight will just increase a little bit due to extra food, due to extra fluid as well. So by giving it 1 to 2 weeks, this will let that initial increase in body weight calm down and level off, and we should see that new body weight that we're going to try and maintain for the foreseeable future. And next thing we need to focus on is the habits that got us there. We really need to make sure that we're keeping these habits up post-dieting phase. So make sure we're still getting our steps, making sure we're having our regular meals, meal timing, also hitting our resistance training sessions and hitting our resistance training with intensity, getting the adequate sleep that we usually would, making sure that we continue to maintain this post-dieting phase is essential for maintaining that new level of leanness. Now, as I spoke about, hunger and food focus is going to be very high. And our best defense against this is just trying to make sure that we keep that regular meal timing and regular meals. As I sort of spoke about with the buffet analogy, if we start to introduce too many variations in our diet, then it's going to actually lead to more hunger and more food focus as opposed to having our regular meal plan. So this is going to be our best defense to make sure that we don't go into any binge eating episodes. We also need to change our focus from that drop in scale weight or the changes that we see in our physique from a day-to-day basis. As I spoke about, we're going to get that dopamine hit from those and instead change it to more performance focus. We're going to have more food in the system. Therefore, we're going to be able to perform a little bit better in the gym. So try to focus more on that. We can get our dopamine hits from improving our lifts and getting stronger over time, as opposed to constantly seeing that drop in scale or changes in physique, which we're not really going to see when we are going into a maintenance period. Another big one is managing your expectation. As I spoke about, a 1 to 2% increase in body weight is something that is completely normal. Okay. You haven't put on fat. You haven't derailed your fat loss journey and everything's gone to shit. It is completely normal. We will see some fluctuations in the scale. We will see a slight increase in scale weight. It's all part of the process, but just remembering that we just need to stick to the plan and that body weight will start to level off. It'll start to just maintain a nice average across the week. So focusing on not letting the scale weight affect your day-to-day decisions and just maintaining the habits and doing the work that got you there. Now, as much as I've spoken about maintaining a meal plan during this post-dieting phase, we also want to start to reintroduce a little bit of normality and also a little bit of flexibility into our diet. But we want to do this gradually. One thing that I do with my clients is I'll measure hunger and food focus each week during this post-dieting phase. And what we are looking for is for food focus and hunger to decrease, so those scores to get better. As that gets better, then we'll start to introduce a little bit more flexibility. This way, we'll have the confidence that we can start to introduce more palatable foods and have some more treats and have some more indulgence without the risk of binge eating. And a large part of this process is understanding that a lot of the food noise and your urge to eat isn't going to come from actual hunger, but it's going to come more from food focus and trying to get that dopamine hit from food. So understanding this when going into this post-dieting phase, that you're still going to have a little bit of rigidity. It is still going to be quite tough in the way of trying to resist those urges of indulgence, but remembering that it will get better over time. And lastly, understanding that this is going to take some time. You're probably going to be in this post-dieting phase for a minimum of 6 weeks, understanding that this is a necessary part of the fat loss phase. And if you nail this, it's going to go a long way to you having long-term success and maintaining that physique that you work so hard to achieve. As I said, hunger, food focus, that noise will all start to die down. Energy levels will come back up. Everything will improve with time, but we just want to make sure that we're staying on task until we get there. Last thing that you want to do is go off on a binge, or you just want to lose focus and continue to eat more and more calories and putting on more and more weight. By that time, it's already too late. So try to make sure that as soon as you finish your dieting phase, get straight into this post-diet approach, and you'll have the best chance of you maintaining that new lean physique. Hope this helped, guys. As always, do those good things. like, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below. I also have all my links in the description. A great one for this is a 21-step guide to fat loss as I go through this post-dieting phase and I break it down for you guys. Also, we got the fat loss checklist, and I have all 3, 4, 5, 6-day training plans, all linked for free below. And if you want to work with myself, obviously that link is in the description as well. So make sure you go through, check out all of those free resources. And if you want to work one-to-one with me, make sure you reach out as well. And if you're trying to figure out where to actually get started and how many calories you should be eating per day, I'd definitely recommend watching this video here as I break down the exact amount of calories that you should be eating to go into a successful fat loss phase. But until next time, talk to you soon.